Londres.
So far, it's looking pretty good. More startups have been launched in the UK since the Brexit referendum than before it. Retail activity has risen. In July, it was up 5.9% on the previous July. Jobs are at another record level. Unemployment fell by 8,600 in July. By the way, in marked contrast to the official predictions. Reuters had organised a poll of economists, and their central forecast was that unemployment would in fact rise by 9,500% as a consequence of Brexit. It's an extraordinary thing. Count how many times on the BBC, on Sky News, on Channel 4 News, count how many times you hear the phrase "despite Brexit" as the introduction to some more positive figures. Of course, in any week, there are going to be some good stories and some bad stories. But the danger is that a number of our pro-Remain pundits and broadcasters are so locked in to the dismal predictions they made before the 23rd of June that they are now determined to see only the bad news and to attribute all of it to the referendum. Now, you might say, well, I'm just obviously doing the opposite, right? Hannon is just seeing the good news. But surely even a fair-minded, committed Remain voter must notice the difference between what was said during the campaign and what's being said and done now. During the campaign, we were told that our immigration officers would be thrown out of Calais. Now the French government has confirmed that the old arrangements will remain in force. During the campaign, President Obama said we'd be at the back of the queue for any trade deal with the US. He has conspicuously refused to repeat that line since, and it's now becoming very clear that American policymakers expect there to be a bilateral British-American free trade agreement in place long before there is any European-American free trade agreement, if that ever happens at all. 26 countries have queued up wanting to sign free trade agreements with the United Kingdom. During the campaign, the German finance minister was brought over to say, "You'll be treated like any third country, out means out." And now Germany is talking about having a special status that recognises our close links. And when Mr. Schäuble was asked why he used that phrase, he said, "Oh, well, George Osborne told me to do that." Okay. Now, wherever you stand on this, it's not good for the soul to be looking all the time for bad stories. You know, I can remember during the Iraq War, I was an opponent of the Iraq invasion, but I remember being horrified by the way that some of my fellow opponents had got themselves so locked in to their previous position of wanting to stop the war that they were almost celebrating or hoping for military setbacks for our own soldiers so as to be able to say, "I told you so." And trust me, that is a very debilitating and soul-destroying position. Also, it's an irrational position. Again, contrast what people were saying before the campaign to what they're saying and doing now. You know, we had GlaxoSmithKline and AstraZeneca saying that it would be a disaster if we left. They've both now made huge investments of £285 and £330 million respectively into the UK, saying that it's the best place to conduct research. Wells Fargo, the giant American bank, has just invested £300 million in a new European headquarters in London. The German stock exchange is going ahead with its merger with the London Stock Exchange, something we were told would be imperiled by Brexit. Overall, of course there are good and bad stories, but overall the position is optimistic. Now, believe me, I'm not saying this in any kind of crowing spirit. I know that for a lot of people, it was a marginal decision. For a lot of Leave voters, it was a marginal decision. For a lot of Remain voters, it was a marginal decision. There were good, patriotic people on both sides, many of whom had really agonised and wrestled before they decided which way to come down. But given where we now are, we have a huge opportunity to exploit the openings that are made available by our post-EU status, to become a global entrepot, a deregulated, low-tax, successful, enterprising offshore economy. And however you voted, surely it must be in our interest now to come together and try to maximise our economic opportunities.